I'm Adam Booth and you're watching Sporting Icons.
Okay, so to follow on from the previous video, where probably about 3 hours ago, I think it was, I uploaded it, where I asked you all the question, who's the mole that snitched to the press about Conor Benn's failed PED test with VADA or adverse finding, whatever wording you want to use. Now, speaking of wording, some people were having a bit of a whittle at me because I used the word snitched. Well, again, it's like so many people seem to think that it's just a word that criminals can use, which is ridiculous. It depends on who leaked it to the press and for what reason, doesn't it? It does. If it's somebody who's done it with compassion, for example, Chris Eubank Jr.'s dad, Senior, had he have done it, again, we're going to talk about him in a second, because I have heard something. But if it was him, then obviously that's not snitching. That's him doing it with compassion, okay? He doesn't want to risk his son getting hurt. So, of course, that's not snitching. If it's anybody who's done it with compassion, who feels the fight shouldn't go ahead because of the PED issue currently, then okay, yeah, that's not snitching. But if it's somebody who's leaked it to the press as a way to make money, that's snitching, is it not? If it's somebody who's done it for the reasons because they are a rival of Eddie Hearn, and he has many across the globe, then they've probably done it with malice because they don't want the views that it would have done, the attention and the money that this particular fight would have made. So they would have done it out of malice, wouldn't they? That's snitching. Okay? I shouldn't have to explain any of this, but sometimes you have to. Anyway, so the most common answer in that video is Chris Eubank Sr., Junior's father. Did he know about it in advance? Well, there's a very real chance that he did. Of course there is. Now, as I said in the previous video, those who would have found out about it. So VADA is voluntary anti-doping agency. So yes, it is voluntary. You don't have to go with it. But in order for Conor Benn to be ranked at number 5, that he currently is in the WBC welterweight rankings, he has to be enrolled in the WBC clean boxing program, correct? So therefore, he has to have all year round VADA testing, or at least in camp. Chris Eubank Jr., exactly the same. He's ranked number 3, I think it is, in the middleweight division for the WBC. So again, he would also be enrolled in the WBC clean boxing program, i.e. VADA. Okay, so when you really hear people talking about how we paid for it and we requested it, well, you kind of had no choice. Now, don't get me wrong, they could request extra testing to make sure that VADA turn up. They can do that part. So maybe that's what it is that they're talking about. But when VADA, when this adverse finding come up, whatever terminology you want to use, they would have, it's not their job to put it out to the press. And again, we've heard from some people who apparently would know that people like Haymon have requested VADA to not leak things out to the press if any of his fighters fail a VADA test. So it's up to Haymon basically if he leaks it to the world or not, right? That shouldn't be allowed, but apparently that's what it is. I said, I don't know. It's just what other people are saying. But VADA would have informed Team Benn, i.e. Conor Benn, i.e. Eddie Hearn, right? They would have also informed Chris Eubank Jr., his team, i.e. Kalle Sauerland, Wasserman. So they would have known. Would they have told the British Box Border Control? Of what I hear, unlikely, because the British Box Border Control, they don't recognise VADA. That's why they use UCAD. So it's unlikely that they would have went to the British Boxing Border Control, okay? But apparently they did find out quite some time ago. So who would have told the British Boxing Border Control? You would imagine it would have been Eddie Hearn, okay? He would have told them some time ago. However, whenever it was, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever. So with all those people knowing, would any of those have leaked it to the press? And for what reason? Could it be somebody on the British Boxing Border Control? Because they feel, well, you know what? We're not too comfortable with this fight anyway, with the fact that Chris Eubank Jr. is having to drain an extra 3 pounds on the scales and with the rehydration clause that he's going to have to endure. We're not too confident about the safety of this fight. Maybe let it out there. It's a possibility. However, probably unlikely, right? Eddie Hearn wouldn't have done it, for sure. Conor Benn wouldn't have done it, that's for damn sure. Could it be somebody on Chris Eubank Jr.'s team? Well, they wanted to fight. But who else would Chris Eubank Jr. have told? Maybe his father? That seems to be the most common answer. Now, of what I did hear is that potentially he did know about this in advance. He did. And he was prepared to sue everybody if this fight went ahead. Now, I've got this on good authority. I won't tell you who it is. That person may put it out themselves at some point. So, if he was planning on doing that, if the fight went ahead, that would probably tell you that he knew about it, right? But I'm pretty sure that he did. But does that mean that he would have leaked it to the Daily Mail? I mean, it's possible. But why the Daily Mail? Why not the Sun? Why not the People? Why not the Guardian? Why not the Telegraph? Why the Daily Mail in particular? So again, does anybody who would potentially know about all of this, does anybody have any association with the Daily Mail? Maybe. But the most likely candidate at the minute is Chris Eubank Sr. And he would have done it through compassion. He didn't want the fight to go ahead. He felt that maybe Junior was biting off more than he could chew with the weight restrictions and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, hearing about Conor Benn having the PD test under scrutiny currently. Again, we can't say he's guilty. I know a lot of people saying he's a PEG cheat, he's a juicer. Well, until the full investigation is done, we don't know. And again, people can come up with conspiracies as to what is going to happen and what has happened. Ultimately, we don't know. Everything's speculative right now. That's the reality of it. But it does appear, at least from most people's perspective, is that Chris Eubank Sr. found out about it and then leaked it. Maybe that's why he's been quite vocal about it recently over the last few weeks, really, that he's dead set against this fight. Why wait until quite recently to do it when he could have made himself known in the beginning? Because in the beginning, I think that we're all under the impression that Senior was on board with it. I don't know if he was, maybe he wasn't. And of course, Senior, he put out that statement about his other son dying, of course, Sebastian, just over a year ago. He didn't want to risk his other son losing or something happening, fatality, whatever. And that's understandable as a father, of course it is. You know, imagine outliving your children. I mean, that should never happen, right? But maybe it was Senior. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was somebody told somebody else, and then that somebody else told a competitor of Eddie Hearn. Maybe he told it off, mentioned it to somebody who happens to not like Eddie Hearn. Maybe somebody who heard it said, you know what, this is a good money-making opportunity. Daily Mail, what's up? Will we ever know? I don't know. I think if somebody was to ask Chris Eubank Sr., did you inform the press? If he did, I think Senior would probably say yes, he did. And he'd be justified in doing so, wouldn't he? So anyway, that seems to be the most common answer. Chris Eubank Sr. According to a lot of you, at least so far. Drop your thoughts below. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you next video.